Today, we're going to talk about, we're going to start talking about wireless LAN.
So one question.
Yes.
About that 8 calls per channel, is that a standard thing?
Yes, it's last time we said each of these 200 kilohertz channels is further divided by TDMA.
Okay.
And within, under that TDMA framework, there are exactly 8 slots that can be used by users.
You know that if you want to be operating.
That's right.
Maybe I didn't know that. I just want to waste everyone's time.
That's right. So let's talk a bit about wireless LAN. In particular, there are a couple kinds of, there are really 2 important protocols that are used in the context of wireless LAN these days, and they are Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Bluetooth is, we'll say a few words about both of these, both this class and next class. Bluetooth, which is what we're primarily going to talk about today, is intended for small devices in a very small area. Actually, it's generally intended for within the immediate area of, let's say, your computer or your person. So within like a few meters, like your desktop, it would help devices connect over that kind of range. Wi-Fi is intended as a sort of a wireless replacement for Ethernet. So that's over a slightly larger area, intended to be a little more infrastructural. There are emerging competitors to these. One that you may have heard of a little bit is Zigbee. We will talk about that if we have time. Zigbee is intended as sort of, it's intended to sort of have features of both of these. So it'll have the simple small device features of Bluetooth, the range, the longer range of Wi-Fi, but also some features such as device sleep that are required for devices that will basically live for a long time. So Zigbee is intended for sensing devices that you would basically scatter over a large area and hope that they stay alive for a long time and take measurements.
Is it key fobs an example, like the security keys?
Security keys, okay. Those are more like those are RFID generally. So they're not active. They're actually not a network device.
But I mean, they get updated with patches every.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's. So yeah, what I had in mind was like the card that you use to enter the building. Yeah, I'm actually. Is that a Zigbee device? I'm actually not familiar with those.
I don't know. I have one.
Okay. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. But generally speaking, in your daily experience, you will probably deal with these wireless LAN protocols the most. On the other end, sort of looking a little bigger, there's another emerging standard that's actually commercially available now called WiMAX, and that's basically intended to be sort of a wireless wide area network that would replace DSL. So, for instance, instead of DSL, you would get WiMAX, and it would provide that kind of service to your home. But for our purposes, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are really where it's at.
So there's also wireless USB is wireless USB.
Wireless USB. Yeah, that's a little more recent. So these are, I'm actually not sure if wireless USB is an IEEE standard, but these have the benefit of being IEEE standards. Bluetooth is 802.15.1, and Wi-Fi is, as we all should all know, 802.11. Okay, so firstly, let's think, why wireless LAN? In other words, about 10 years ago, lots and lots of organizations spent a huge amount of money fitting out their buildings with wired LAN, So why would we abandon that and go with wireless LAN? Well, the biggest issue is convenience and flexibility. And that's really the only, that's a huge reason, but it's really the only one. So there's no need to retrofit buildings. Or carry cables. Or provide connectors. And I think actually for modern devices, this last requirement is a key one. So does anyone in this room own a MacBook Air? Yes. So MacBook Air comes without an Ethernet connection. Its only network connection is the Wi-Fi. And if you think about it, that's really interesting. So over the period of time in which laptops have existed, think of the number of connectors that have come and gone. So you have your simple serial port, your parallel port that a lot of them used to have, USB ports, VGA ports, DVI ports, so on and so on and so on. If you think about the amount of area that's available on a laptop, providing legacy support for those kinds of connections, what you need to do is either abandon that connection or provide take up area providing a connector. One part of the convenience and flexibility of wireless LAN is that everything over here is basically, aside from such things as the size of the antenna and the actual tuning radio itself, everything else is kind of software. So in fact, you don't really need to provide a connector. It's mostly software defined. And the nice thing about most of the wireless LAN standards is that they're all in like the 2.5, the 2.4 gigahertz ISM band. So all your radio hardware is common. Okay, so those are some pretty compelling advantages. They come with a lot of convenience, a lot of reduced expense. So why not wireless LAN? In other words, where might it be inappropriate?
Security.
Okay, I heard two comments. One was security, and one was bandwidth. That's a good one. I'll write that down. Interference. Okay, security. Interesting comment. Who said that? So, what's insecure about wireless networks?
It's not just a cable that goes from point A to point B.
Correct.
It's something that goes from point A to everywhere in the range of point B.
Correct. So, sorry, pardon me.
Vulnerable to eavesdropping.
Vulnerable to eavesdropping. So that's it's.
You're basically broadcasting.
You're basically broadcasting. That's right. So I mean, 802.11 uses what's called WEP, wireless wire equivalent privacy. WEP has its own problems. So I would argue that if done right, wireless LANs can be as secure as wired LAN. If WEP is not used, then obviously everything you broadcast can be overheard by anyone with the right equipment.
There's programs that you can actually craft the WEP.
That's right. So WEP is not.
It's terrible.
It's not properly done. So I would argue that it hasn't been done right. What WEP, some of the flaws in WEP, it allows a user to type their own password, for example, so it can be cracked in the same way that any other password can be cracked. I'm actually, some of you may be more familiar with the security holes. I am aware that there are security holes that do allow you to basically enter the network even if you don't know the WEP password.
If you collect enough data from it, enough unique IDs, you can run algorithms to basically hash out the password.
That's right. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I've read enough about it that I'm willing to believe that
There's a lot of friendly utilities on the internet.
Yeah, that it's not secure.